Hello you guys, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, then hi, welcome, thanks for stopping by. If you are returning, then welcome back you guys. Okay, before we start this video, I just need to show you guys something. Look at that little grey ball of cuteness. That's Oberon. That's my baby. But okay, anyway, starvation. Psychology behind starvation. I think this is a very, very interesting topic. And before we start, I wanted to ask you guys a question. And I want you to keep this question in mind while we are going through this video. Okay. The question is, what is the longest amount of time that you have managed to go on a super restrictive diet? Or if you've never been on a restrictive diet before, what's the longest amount of time that you know of somebody who has been on a restrictive diet before they cave or they stop, you know, they can't sustain it anymore? Oh wait. Okay. So my guess would be about 99.9% that you don't know somebody, or you yourself have not been on a super restrictive diet for a period of, let's say, like 5 years. You know, I bet you it was just like within a couple of weeks that either you caved or the person that you know caved, right? Okay, and the reason for that is that super restrictive diets are not sustainable. So I just wanted to give you some science behind this as well, and I think that this is super interesting. There was this experiment done in the Second World War. It was between 1944 and 1945. It was called the Minnesota Starvation Experiment, where Dr. Ansel Keys, he took 36 people, 36 men between the ages of 20 and in their mid-30s, and he put them on a diet for a year. It was a year-long experiment. The reason for this was there were a lot of people during the Second World War who they lived in extreme poverty. They were experiencing famine, and Dr. Keys wanted to examine the physiological and the psychological effects that being in a state of starvation or semi-starvation has on a period over a period of time, and then also to see the best methods of refeeding people when they did have access to food again to help them gain weight again. Okay, so this experiment, as I say, these 36 men were selected based on the fact, this is super important, that specifically they didn't have mental, emotional, or psychological problems with food. They ate normally. They ate when they were hungry. They stopped when they were full. They didn't have an unhealthy relationship with diet or with exercise. So that was one of the prerequisites for them being selected for the study. Okay, so basically for 3 months, these 36 guys were monitored. They ate 3,200 calories a day. That was like a maintenance caloric level for them, so that they were maintaining their weight. Then they went into a 6-month period where their calories were drastically reduced. They were cut in half. So the men went from eating 3,200 calories a day to eating about just under 1,600 calories a day. So they were monitored for that 6 months to see the physical effects and the psychological effects that this starvation or this semi-starvation had on them. And then there was a refeeding period at the end. Okay. I think it's first important to define what starvation is, because I think that a lot of us, when we think of starvation, we think, oh, just not eating at all, or eating 1 grape a day kind of thing. Okay, starvation is actually defined as suffering brought about by extreme hunger or by lack of food. So hands up anybody who has ever suffered due to lack of food. Or it is defined as being in a severe caloric deficit, you know, eating really few calories for a prolonged period of time. Okay, I also think it's really important to point out that while these guys were in the state of starvation or semi-starvation, they were still eating 1,600, 1,600 calories a day. A lot of diets these days prescribe way fewer calories than that to people. And I know they were a demographic where they were healthy, physically active men, so their basal caloric amount that they needed every day was about 3,200, so that's pretty high. But so the calories were cut in half. So for you, let's think if you are maintaining at, let's say, 2,000 calories, if your calories were halved, so that's you would be put into the state of semi-starvation or starvation, eating 1,000 calories a day. Okay, so just take what your maintenance caloric level is, divide it in half, and that's pretty much what these guys were eating. Okay, some of the physical effects that these guys experienced, the size of their hearts decreased, their blood volume decreased, they were constantly cold, they couldn't sit comfortably for long periods of time because their bones were sticking into their skin. I can 100% vouch for all of those. That is definitely what happens. And there were a lot of effects. I don't want to get there's a lot of research on this. There's actually a super thick document that Dr. Keys and his associates wrote up on this, but I'm not going to do that because you guys have got stuff to do and have got lives, so I'm just going to list them really quickly. So those are some of the physical effects. Their body temperature decreased, they had no sex drive, their hair started falling out, they got muscle cramps. I can really vouch for all of those things, but I wanted to focus on the psychological effects that these guys experienced. They went through bouts of serious depression. Some of them became hypochondriacs. They became very preoccupied or obsessed with food, reading cookbooks obsessively late into the night, waking up to read cookbooks. If you've been on a restrictive diet before, I bet you found yourself watching the Food Network and thinking about food way more than you had before. So I can definitely vouch for that too. They experienced a decrease in their energy and their strength. They felt a lot older than they actually were. They chewed up to 40 packs of gum a day to try and stave off those hunger pangs that they had. The doctors eventually put a cap on how much gum they could chew and on how much black coffee they could drink, because they just did that all the time just to try and get rid of those hunger pangs. They got super irritable if their food was served late. They had very hectic mood swings. I can definitely say that is how it works as well. Hashtag hangry, right? But yeah, they mixed their foods together with water to try and bulk it up. They used weird food combinations, all these kind of weird behaviors that they developed around food. And again, just remember that these were guys that had absolutely no problems with food or exercise before the experiment started. So this is what was happening to them in this state of eating only 1,600 calories a day. Mental apathy, just not really caring that much about stuff that they used to really care about a lot. It was just kind of one way or the other now. And I can vouch for that too, because when you are just thinking about food and completely preoccupied and obsessed with food, you just don't have the mental or emotional capacity to really care about anything else in your life anymore. Social isolation and withdrawal, that is a really hectic one. It actually breaks my heart when I think about how many memories and fun times I missed out on with friends and family due to just the social isolation and withdrawing from myself, you know. Physically, they also lost 25% of their body weight on average, so that's like a quarter of their weight. When I was my thinnest, I lost a third of my body weight. So if you took me and chopped me into 3 pieces and took away one of those pieces, that was how much weight I lost. Super crazy, super unhealthy. They experienced binge eating. Their concentration was impaired, their judgment was impaired, their comprehension was impaired. So these are the physical and the psychological effects, and this one to me is the most interesting. 3 of the guys were their results were discounted at the end of the study because they cheated. They just couldn't take it anymore of the starvation. And there was another guy, his results were also discounted. So 4 of them weren't included at the end of the study. But one of the guys went into town the one day and he cheated. He went and he ate all these foods that weren't part of the diet and that weren't part of what was being monitored for them. And afterwards he said he felt like such a failure because he had cheated and he felt weak, like he wasn't able to do what he was supposed to do successfully. And that to me, that speaks so loudly about how a lot of us that diet have viewed ourselves when we cheat, when we reach that point where we just can't anymore, or we eat the bad food that we've talked about before. So it was interesting to me because this shows that these psychological effects that people experience, it doesn't necessarily come from having an eating disorder. These are the results or the symptoms that come along with being in a state of starvation or semi-starvation. Whether you're coming from an eating disordered mindset or not, it's irrelevant. So I think a lot of these behaviors that are kind of classified with people who have got an eating disorder, it just shows that it's not, the eating disorder isn't what causes the symptoms, it's the starvation, that being in a state of really, your body's under stress because you are eating too few calories, that is what causes these symptoms. Even the social isolation, withdrawing from people, mental apathy, mood swings, that sort of thing, you know. So that was just extremely interesting to me, and like I said, I can vouch for all of these things, for being moody, having muscle cramps, feeling dizzy, the physical effects, like my heart also, like I've mentioned before, I damaged it a lot. So I just wanted to bring this up and just think back to that question that I asked you at the beginning. What's the longest that you have gone on a super restrictive diet, or what's the longest that you know of someone who's been on a super restrictive diet? Because yeah, you can see that it's not sustainable, and when it is, or when you are in this kind of state, you are so miserable. I mean, look at the symptoms that come from things like this, you know. So I just wanted to touch on that and just point out that, you know, please don't listen to what the media says about, oh, try this diet, eat only 800 calories a day. You are going to be so miserable and you're not going to be able to sustain it. And so then we get into that yo-yo dieting, and our diet starts on Monday, as we have talked about so many times before. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Go and check out the study if you want to. I'll put the link in the description here below. And yeah, it is really, really interesting. Please comment below if you have got experience with this, or with restrictive dieting, or you know of somebody who's gone through this. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share the video with others if you think that it'll be helpful for them. Don't forget to go check out alignfitness.co.za. And I love you guys. Thank you so much for checking out this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Let's say goodbye to Oberon. Bye, Oberon. Oh, he's the cutest. I love him. But okay, you guys must have an absolutely awesome day, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye!